We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg.
Welcome back to episode of Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes, where we review food shows in bite-sized seasons. That's one of our taglines, right? Yeah.
It sure is.
Get that on a shirt. Sell it on our thread list. Podappetit.threadlist.com.
Oh, starting the plugs early.
Plugging it up. Here we go. This season, we've been covering The Chef Show, Season 1, Volume 1. And today, we're going to digest it. Let me remind you what The Chef Show is. In The Chef Show, writer, director, and food enthusiast Jon Favreau and chef Roy Choi explore food in and out of the kitchen with accomplished chefs and celebrity friends. Celebrity friends.
A lot of celebrity friends.
So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, I'm going to talk to Meg here and ask her what she's been cooking / eating, what she's been doing.
I'm going to talk about what I've been eating. There was this ice cream that went a little bit viral last year because it was everything bagel ice cream by Jenny's Ice Cream.
I missed this.
Yes, it's by Jenny's Ice Cream, which is spelled JENI''S. And they always have sort of limited edition flavors. And last year, people went nuts for the everything bagel ice cream. Some people thought it was really weird. Some people strangely liked it. They're going to be rolling that out again soon here. But that's how this ice cream brand got on my radar. And I was like, well, I like weird flavors, but also it costs a lot to have a few pints of ice cream shipped to me. So I think I'll get something that I actually think I'm going to like. So I ordered 4 pints of, I didn't mean to do this, but oops, all cake flavors. So I got a buttercream birthday cake, gooey butter cake, pineapple upside down cake, and maple soaked pancakes. 4 pints of those ice creams. And so far I've eaten all of the buttercream birthday cake flavor because it was really, really good. It had a lot of sprinkles, which made it look very cute, but maybe too many sprinkles. Sprinkles don't taste that great when you get right down to it. They're just kind of there for aesthetics. But it's this nice rainbow, colorful ice cream. And I tried the pineapple upside down cake. Haven't finished it yet, but it's very tart and pineapple-y. Heavy on the pineapple, light on the cake, but it's good. So I guess overall I'd recommend these. Depending on where you live, you can just find them in the grocery store, but I couldn't find any around me, so I had to order it. But it's really good. I liked it.
We have Jenny's locations here in LA.
Yep. What have you been up to, Justine?
I made something. I made the thing that I said I was going to make last time.
Remind me.
It's from Minimalist Baker. It's called 7-ingredient vegan key lime pies. And they're mini pies. Yeah, my quest to keep using up that those graham cracker boxes that I bought that aren't gluten-free so I can make just treats for my friends. And still, I still have like 3 more sleeves to go.
Wow.
So these are super easy to make. Would make again, telling you right at the top. Every time I was like, I made these to like my coworkers and stuff. And I'm like, I 100% would make them again. They're so easy. You should make them. They're not difficult. 7 ingredients and they're vegan. The crust, graham cracker, melted butter in your food processor. I did mini pies. So use your cupcake tin and liners. Put them in. Just tap, tap, tap down the graham cracker melted butter situation. So you get that crust. Bake that for just 10 minutes. And then everything else you make in a blender. A cup of raw cashews that you've had soaked for 4 hours or overnight. Coconut milk, coconut oil, 3 to 4 large limes juiced, lime zest, and 1/3 cup agave for the sweetness. All that in the blender. Beautiful, creamy, very limey. I may have been like extra zest because I want it super limey. Yeah,
absolutely.
Very tart. Put that on top of the crust into the freezer for like at least 2 hours. Bam, you're done. Was that baking? Only for 10 minutes, and then you got beautiful pie, mini pies.
That sounds great. I love key lime pie.
It was fantastic. I had a little taste of the top because I'm not eating gluten at this time. And I was like, woo, it's tart. Love it. And you have a little like topping of zest on the top, so it's just very fresh. I would describe it just as very fresh treat.
Very summery. I always associate key lime pie with summertime. So yeah, the weather's getting warmer. I think that sounds wonderful. I'm pretty sure the last key lime pie I made was an Andy Baragani recipe. And I remember there was tequila in it. It was a nice little extra kick to the key lime.
Where you're like, woo!
It was like a margarita key lime pie.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So you said margarita key lime pie. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that recipe. All right, that's us. So now we're going to talk about the chef show as a whole.
Well, what is there to say about the chef show that we haven't said already?
Yeah, if you've been following this, the previous, 4 episodes that we've talked about this show, I feel like you may have gotten the slightest hint that we didn't like it.
The more that we do this podcast, the more that I've sort of started categorizing all the shows we've watched. And I've come up with 3 different categories. Instructional. Ooh. So these are cooking shows that actually teach you how to cook. And I would say that Nadiya Bakes definitely falls under that category. Yes. Educational, which is it teaches you something not necessarily about cooking, maybe about cooking, but maybe something else. And in that category, I would put Taste the Nation because there's a lot of historical and cultural information that you learn from that show. And then the last category is entertaining. So this is just a show that's there to have fun. You enjoy watching it. And even though I'd say The Great British Bake Off is a little bit instructional and a little bit educational, I would still put it mostly as just entertaining.
Reality TV.
Yep, exactly. And the chef show, I think, squarely falls under entertaining because you don't really learn how to cook. You learn a couple little tips here and there. You don't really learn that much about anything else, really, except for maybe some factoids about the guests that they have on, some trivia about the particular people in the episode. So for a show that I would say its main goal is entertainment, it fell short for me. And for reasons that we've talked about before, it seemed aimless. They didn't really have a solid premise going into it. And I feel like what's really important in creating any sort of media is that you have to respect your audience. And I felt like they didn't really earn my time or attention when they don't even know what they're doing. Why should I be interested in watching that?
And Meg, you're a huge Marvel fan, are you not?
I am, yes. So even being a huge Marvel fan, I mean, that was one of the reasons I was first drawn to this show, is that Iron Man is my favorite MCU movie. Jon Favreau is pretty much to thank for the state of MCU as it is today. I mean, Kevin Feige as well, for sure. But Jon really kicked off something special in the MCU. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just not usually that interested in celebrity interviews or celebrity gossip. And I guess for those same reasons, I wasn't totally attracted to this show. Even the Avengers episode, I was like, oh, I'm going to love this because I like Tom Holland. I like Robert Downey Jr. I like the Russo brothers. I like pretty much everyone. But there's just something about the format where it was this casual chit chat, but it also seemed staged at the same time. It was supposed to be this like authentic, here's people sitting down to talk, but it just, obviously it is staged. It's a TV show, but I didn't feel like I was invited in. I felt like I was watching a sort of awkward lunch date.
Yeah, I feel like I got the vibes from Favreau of like, oh, yeah. Remember that one thing we did? Like, very sort of insider sort of thing. And I'm like, I'm not in this club.
No, absolutely. I think that's the perfect way to describe it. It's always really annoying, let's say, when you're in a group of friends and everyone starts laughing at an inside joke that you weren't there for. It feels very exclusive and alienating. And I think the show could have been different if it was like, hey, we're inviting the audience in. But it's more like, here's our inner circle. Here's the cool kids table. Don't you want to be a part of it? And I was kind of like, no, not really, because I don't feel like I've been invited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I feel like there could have been a premise of like professional chef teaches average guy how to do professional chef stuff and take out all the BS of, they kept referencing like, this is, not a fake food show where we, do a little prep and then we take out something, and fake it. They always are like, yeah, we're not faking it here. It's the real stuff. But I feel like I never like witnessed that journey, or I don't know. I feel at one time you called Jon Favreau like the audience surrogate. And I feel like for me, I was never really seeing things from his perspective, or he was never, that for me.
I think that maybe shines a little bit of light on who is the audience for this show, because obviously it's a very popular show. We are definitely in the minority here of not being huge fans of it. So I asked myself, well, who is this for? Because I did feel like it was for me. I was like, I like these guests. I like the concept, but it didn't quite land. And I do have to wonder if maybe it is more for people who are professionals. I hear a lot of people who are line cooks themselves, or really passionate home bakers, or, for example, one of our listeners, Mrs. Casper, is a professional baker. And a lot of these folks are like, oh yeah, I love this show. And I think, well, maybe it is because they have that insider knowledge. Maybe the audience surrogate isn't John. Maybe it is the chefs who do the cooking. Maybe that's who the audience that likes this show really does identify with.
Yeah. I was just really hoping for more of a lockdown format, as the episodes went on. We watched the whole first volume, which is 8 episodes, but it just felt like they were trying different stuff on each one, or they were just hang out. And even in the first episode, and I feel like this just continued, they were just rolling tape. Like John was like, we're just going to roll tape on this and see what happens. I feel like that was just consistent. Although there were some like few things I did like from here and there on some formats. Like I mentioned before, the Robert Rodriguez interview. I thought that was like a nice format, worked for me, where they're like cooking and interviewing.
I agree, but between Robert Rodriguez or Bill Burr, just that they were the same format of like, let's cook and interview. I was a little bit more interested in the Bill Burr one because frankly, I just thought the food sounded more interesting. It was just a grilled cheese sandwich, but Roy was there to show Bill how to make it. So we still had the interview with an interesting person. We still had the structure around building a dish. And we do have that with Robert Rodriguez as well, but I found his recipes not that compelling to me personally. And Roy really took a back seat in that interview.
Yeah. Part of me is like, did Jon Favreau even need to be there?
Well, yeah, let's talk about the hosts a little bit, because this is actually something that I did really like about the show that I would consider a positive. I like John and Roy separately, and I like them together. I think they make an interesting duo. I do like John as a host because he just seems like very affable and friendly and laid back, and he's kind of the reason why a lot of the people are even on the show. They're pals with John, so he's there to chit chat. He puts them at ease. He's the amateur who gets to ask questions that the audience might be asking. And then you have Roy, who is obviously this consummate professional. He's an expert. He has unimpeachable cooking chops. And so we get to learn a lot from him. So I like this duo of amateur versus professional. And also, they're obviously good friends, but there is that mentor-mentee dynamic sometimes as well, where Roy is like, I taught you this. Now go forth, John, and cook. I enjoy them together. I just think that the show leaned too heavily on assuming that we would be interested in them just bullshitting for minutes on end.
Yeah, and I definitely think of like the Aaron Franklin episode, which we just talked about, and we just talked about like, what is happening? Like, where is the start of this conversation? Where is the information? Like, I can see that John is sitting there being like, I'm asking interview questions, I'm interviewing, but he doesn't give any context at all.
That's another thing that really contributes to the inner circle cool kids vibe, is the lack of context, because there's the assumption made that we should know who all these people are. We should know what their restaurant is. And, oh, I'm so shocked if you don't know who Aaron Franklin is. So I do feel like a lot of steps throughout the show, in the production, they didn't really consider the viewing audience. They're like, what's going to be entertaining for the viewer? What information do they need, etc.
Yeah, that was a big one for me, that whole episode of like, you lost me right off the bat of like, I'm still trying to like pull information from you, but you've already gone on to the next thing. And I'm like, I can't focus on the next thing because I'm still in the last thing, figuring out what the heck you were saying.
That's true. And it would have been such an easy fix, too. I mean, literally just a few seconds of voiceover or something with like, Aaron Franklin is the founder and chef at Franklin Barbecue in Austin, and he won a James Beard Award. Like, that's all I need. And then I can be like, okay, I know who this person is. Let's continue with the show now.
Those last episodes were, pretty frustrating for me.
Those were definitely my least favorite. Something that I wanted to mention in the previous episode but forgot is that in that Hot Luck episode, I really feel like they just didn't have enough footage, enough B-roll. There were so many repeated shots of stoking the fire in the smoking area and plating the kimchi. I can't tell you how many times they showed those same shots over and over. So I feel like that episode was just sort of not that well done from step one. They didn't even have enough raw footage to work with, I feel like.
I feel like it was like Aaron Franklin, Hot Luck, and then Netflix was like, we need 8 episodes, split it in 2.
Those were 2 of the shortest episodes in this volume as well. So I also wonder if it was one episode that then they decided to stretch into 2.
And then also, to go along with that, them making beignets twice.
So
Back to
unnecessary.
back. Oh my God, you're making box beignets. Like, guys, I believe you, it can be done, but oh my God.
And the second time, even though they made a point of saying it wasn't sponsored, just felt like such a giant plug because the way that they plated it and had the box in the back, like, oh, look, Café du Monde and the Café du Monde napkins. And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't like plugs.
Blah.
Do we have least hated episodes? I don't know if I would go so far as to say favorite episodes.
Yeah. I would say Remembering Jonathan Gold would be my favorite.
So I had, I guess, 3 top episodes, but even calling them my favorites, I didn't like them nearly enough to ever want to rewatch them. So it's more like, these are the ones I had the best time watching, that one and only time I'm going to watch it. But I do agree, I liked the Remembering Jonathan Gold episode because we had some experts to learn from. They were women, which was an anomaly in this part of the show. And the recipes all looked very good to me. That peach galette looked delicious, a bunch of really good looking Thai food recipes. For that same reason, I did also enjoy the chef film recipes episode, strictly because it was a good episode in terms of food porn. It was like, here's all this delicious looking food. Here is the food shot beautifully. And I really felt like all of the recipes in that episode were very compelling to me.
Except for the beignets.
Except for the beignets, yes, with the exception of the repeat of the beignets, which was boring and tedious.
I literally forgot, like, Babish was there until you brought that. I'm like, oh yeah, Babish,
That was another reason I liked that one, is that I liked the guest. I like Babish a lot. I thought it was cute how they tried to recreate the binging with Babish format. So that is another reason I liked that one. And, you know, with everything I already said about the MCU, I'm not going to complain about looking at RDJ's face, so I enjoyed that episode too.
Give me Mark Ruffalo. I'll treat you.
On the topic of women chefs and how we felt they were underrepresented in the episodes we watched, it does seem like they did get better about this in following seasons and volumes. And based strictly on the episode descriptions, it looks like they have at least 6 more female guests in the episodes we haven't watched in the later seasons.
Excellent. I loved the female guests that we had. I mean, well, Gwyneth Paltrow, whatever. But
You know what? I do say I did enjoy that just because it's kind of like laughing at her, which I know sounds mean. And we talked about this in our first episode, but it's not as ditzy as the meme would have you believe that she forgot which movie she was in. But, you know,
it's a nice moment,
There's
actually.
something kind of entertaining about her.
I like it. And that's like the only time when they were like, oh, we'll make it vegetarian for you. Except they called it goop friendly. I'm like, ugh, annoyed with that phrasing.
Yeah.
I think we should take a quick break, then let people know some of our other thoughts on these topics and if we would recommend the show. Such a surprise. After the break. And we are back. Do you have favorite recipes? I know you've got a couple favorite episodes, a couple favorite people. Let's talk the food.
Yeah, I do have a few favorite recipes. As I said, the Chef Film Recipes episode, I think that was strong in terms of recipes. So pretty much everything there. So listeners, if you are a longtime listener, you know that we do a potluck episode at the end of each season in which we make a recipe from the show we've just watched. So the entire Chef Film Recipes episode, I was like, oh, these are all good contenders. So we have the aglio e olio pasta, aka Scarlett's pasta, the berries and cream, and the grilled cheese, which I don't think was in that episode, but was in several other episodes. They all looked easy to make. They all looked tasty and approachable. So I liked all of those. I thought the peach galette looked really, really delicious. And there was a recipe I saw online that wasn't among the episodes we watched, but there's a later episode at Skywalker Ranch in which they make roasted peaches and plums with cream that has a lot of ingredients that were actually grown on Skywalker Ranch. So that recipe looked pretty intriguing to me as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love your list. I would add like the pad thai, the pad kimao. We didn't get like a whole heck of a lot of recipes going forward. We've got Robert Rodriguez's cauliflower crust pizza, and then when they make the cauliflower fried rice. And then I feel like after that, this may just be because I was just really checked out on this show. It was so hard for me to like actually realize when they were cooking something. It became like they were like hiding it more to me.
Yeah, they do have the animation of what goes into the recipe, but it's so fast that it's almost blink and you'll miss it. So if they're not really focusing on the step-by-step of the recipe they make, I could understand how you might miss some of the food details.
Yeah, I felt like, I would see the animation thing, and then they'd be like, oh, I'm putting this and this and this and this. But like, not like other food shows where you go in there and they're like this thing and you see how it does this and like focus on this thing. It's they're doing their banter thing while they're cooking. And I'm totally like blanking on the cooking at that point.
And there were several recipes that were prepared either by a restaurant or by a chef that wasn't necessarily their guest, but just who they might have interviewed briefly. So, for example, in the Avengers episode, there was that seafood restaurant they went to, and they made the shrimp toast and the lobster roll. I thought those looked good, but I did kind of forget about them because I guess it would be difficult for me to make, maybe, because you don't get the step-by-step recipe. You just sort of get the ingredients that go into it. And the David Chang episode where they make a bunch of Korean dishes, it was a similar thing. I was like, oh, that sounds really good, but they're not explaining it in a way where I feel like, oh, I could definitely make that.
Yeah, I feel like the most explained foods were the pepper pot in episode 1. And then I think all the stuff from that Chef Film Recipes when Babish was there explaining each step.
Yes. And these are also the only recipes that have appeared on the show that you can find step-by-step instructions and ingredient lists for on thechefshow.com.
Yeah, I was hoping to get more out of this food show, but I think I said it before. I'm like, Netflix, it's a documentary. They're just there documenting, you know? And as you said, it's just entertainment. So
yes,
I feel like, though, when I watch Jabibo, I can take away actionable steps. You know, I've learned so many tips and tricks from Jabibo.
I do feel that way too, even though I've never made a flaky pastry. I feel like maybe I could. I know how to laminate dough. I've seen it a dozen times.
Yeah, I definitely used some tricks when I made my last potluck last season, when I was just like, okay, I've seen them to do this, and they take the dough over the rolling pin and flip it like that, and I'm like, I'm just living Jabibo here.
Yeah, I actually used a Jabibo tip to make part of my chef show recipe because I've already made my potluck recipe. So
Oh my gosh.
Stay tuned for that.
Next episode.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We talked about our thoughts. We talked about a lot of criticisms of the show, whatever we could talk about for positives of the show. We talked about our favorite guests. We talked about sort of the variety of guests. I don't know. This part of me is like, it's not my show. It's not my friend group. So there's nobody like I wish they would have on the show because I don't know.
I think that kind of segues into the question that we always ask, which is, would we recommend this show? And I thought, am I going to watch any more of these episodes that we haven't covered on the podcast? And the answer for me was no, I don't think I will. Mm-hmm. I did go through the future seasons to see specifically, is there a guest I'm interested in hearing from or learning more about? And the answer to that, again, was no. So I think ultimately, no, I don't recommend this show. But again, this seems like the unpopular opinion. So Seth Rogen's episode is very popular. I've seen it gifted a million times. People love Seth Rogen. People seem to love his appearance on the chef show. So if that's something you're interested in, then yeah, maybe this would be the show for you. Or maybe if you're really interested in, say, the Austin food scene or something like that. I think I might maybe watch a couple of the future episodes, but to be perfectly honest, probably not. But the thing that attracted me about these episodes was that I had been to these locations before. So one is Hog Island Oyster Company, and another one is Tartine Bakery. So it has that sort of novelty of being like, hey, I've been there, Leo pointing gif, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's enough motivation for me to actually watch them.
I definitely also came into this show with other people I know being big fans of it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a popular show. Let's do it. Some of even our fans were requesting that we cover it. Yeah, I was also watching a show called Selena and Chef on HBO Max, which I would recommend in place of this show if you want to watch a celebrity learn how to cook from chefs, from professional chefs. Each episode, Selena Gomez, Zoom calls with a celebrity chef, and they teach her a variety of dishes. Excellent show. I've already watched like 2 seasons of it.
Yeah, it's great. So you recommend instead this other show?
Because I feel like it's the same vibe of like, I was like, okay, if you want to watch celebrity learn how to cook, watch this other show. I want to watch this show.
Sorry, everyone, I guess.
Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, this is the first show we've watched that we haven't liked. It's okay.
I think even fellow co-host LJ said she was a fan of the show, but Bebe still takes priority at the moment, so we weren't able to hear her thoughts. But maybe when she rejoins us, she can tell us why she likes it.
Yeah, and write into us your thoughts, of course, on our Instagram or on our email.
podappetitpodcast@gmail.com.
All right, so Meg, you ready to jump on into our back burner?
I'm ready.
So our first topic actually came from you. Nadiya Hussain is on an episode of Off Menu Podcast with Ed Gamble and, how do you say his name? James Acaster?
James Acaster. He's a podcaster.
Oh my God.
This is a really fun podcast. It's one of my favorite food podcasts for sure, but definitely favorite podcasts in general. Ed Gamble and James Acaster are a couple of stand-up comedians. James Acaster has a great comedy special on Netflix that I love called Repertoire. So I would recommend that. And in each episode, they invite a celebrity guest to go through their dream menu. So what their ideal menu would be start to finish, from appetizer to dessert. And yeah, friend of the podcast, Nadiya Hussain, was on a recent episode. She was obviously the host of Nadiya Bakes, which we covered a couple of seasons ago. She's really fun. She's really funny, as always. Kind of like on Nadiya Bakes, she always has entertaining stories about her family. Like apparently her husband eats 5 to 6 popsicles a night, which is fascinating.
What? Are they sugar-free? Oh my gosh.
I don't know. But yeah, I love the Off Menu podcast. I recommend it. I think I've talked about it on the show before, and the Nadiya Hussain episode was a good listen.
That's awesome. Our next topic, dun dun dun, be warned.
Be warned that we're about to transport you back to the year 2020, which is a thing we don't really want to do.
The is it cake trend is officially back.
Is it cake?
Is it? Oh, it is. It's always cake.
So Netflix has decided to run with this gimmick a couple years too late. They have released a show called Is It Cake? That features
So
hyper-realistic cakes, and the celebrity guests have to guess whether it is indeed cake or not.
Yeah, they've got like a variety of things in front of them, and one of them is cake. Oh my God. Also, I will say that after you had sent this to us, I then saw on Instagram on the Discover page several things being cut into and revealed as cake. And I'm like, oh my God, it is back. Yeah.
Your cookies have been ruined since you clicked on the link. I'm sorry. Blame Netflix.
Lastly, there was a viral tweet on the internet of all places. So this woman, Amber Nelson, tweeted, "Got invited to someone's place for dinner and they charged me for it. This is weird, right?"
Right.
Right. Yeah. Who done this?
A bunch of people were sounding off in the replies like, that person's not your friend if they surprise you with a charge the next day. This is just unconscionable to me. I don't understand.
Yeah, if you're hosting, you're buying up everything, you're deciding the menu. I would say, yeah, if you're going to someone's place, like a host gift is nice. I'm not saying it's absolutely necessary.
I think the crux of this here is that if people have agreed beforehand that everyone's going to pitch in, that's obviously totally fine. But if it's a surprise bill that has never been discussed or anticipated, that's such a big no-no in my mind. And also, hosting anything, whether it's a small party or large party, it's an act of generosity. You're inviting people into your house. You're there to be kind and generous. And I feel like it's not wrong to assume that you are going to be treated to a meal by your friend. And like you said, bring a gift, bring a nice bottle of wine. That's kind of the social contract.
I feel like this person has never heard of the concept of potluck, which segues into our next
Surprise,
our
it's
next
our
episode's
potluck episode.
potluck. Surprise, I brought cake. Or is it? I go to cutting a cake and it's really a bowling ball. Like, guys.
Justina's just presented to me 2 sneakers, but one is a cake.
Put your mouth on that bag. Okay, that's it.
Goodbye. Oh, no, wait. We still have a couple of things.
No, wait. Now we've got a couple shout outs. We put up a reel on Instagram that showed a lovely little date night that LJ had, and the people loved it.
It was a birthday celebration for her, and she had carbonara pasta in which the pasta was swirled around in a big old hollowed out wheel of cheese, which is just amazing.
Yeah, and the cake, what was it?
The pie, the sky-high lemon meringue pie. The meringue was, I'm not kidding you, like 6 inches tall, maybe even bigger.
That was quite the meringue. She told us in confidence, and we weren't supposed to tell you, that she could only barely even take a bite at that point, but really like dug into it for the gram. Like
She did it for the gram.
So many likes, so many views. Even still, I put it up a while ago. It's making the rounds. LJ's gonna go on some more dates. Is what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah.
Go out with your husband. And then something else we posted on Instagram. Meg, you made a beautiful Tokyo tea cocktail by John deBary, who he himself called it fabulous.
I was so happy to hear that because he creates a lot of cocktail recipes for Food 52 drinks. And I always look at his cocktails and think, oh, those look wonderful and delicious. And I'm always looking for inspiration because I do some freelance cocktail recipe writing on a monthly basis, and I'm such a noob that I'm just like, I need inspiration and help here. But yeah, this Tokyo tea cocktail is a twist on the Long Island iced tea, and I made it for St. Patrick's Day because it's very green, and it has a lot of stuff in it. It has vodka, gin, white rum, tequila, Midori liqueur, blue curacao, lime juice, simple syrup, and Mountain Dew. And it was really good.
God.
I failed to mention that on Instagram. It was really tasty. I liked it a lot.
Would make again outside of the being green season.
Would make again. It only required 2 ounces of Mountain Dew, so I still have a lot of Mountain Dew left in a bottle in the fridge. So I might have to make it again.
Wow. And shout out to Kale Blake and B is for Bagel Book for sharing their comments on it as well. They said it. Well, they didn't say it was scrumptious. They put a bunch of heart emojis on it, which I'm indicating that they thought it looked scrumptious.
Yeah, thanks. You guys should try it if you can.
Thank you, everybody, for getting in touch with us all over the place on social media. And reminder again, pick up our merch at podappetit.threadless.com to show your support. Next week on the podcast, if I haven't mentioned 12 times already, we're doing a potluck.
We're doing the potluck.
We're making surprise dishes from this show, the chef show.
Mm-hmm. And then we can say goodbye to the chef show forever.
Au revoir. Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appetit. And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Carla is, a book drunkard, a 40-something with psychology and counseling degrees, a former freelance journalist and counselor who's never bored, a disabled introvert who sees connections everywhere, like John Nash, only much less mathy, a knitting fidget who intensely loves horror movies with a skewed passion. Like one of my heroes, Harry the Spy, I want to learn everything and write it all down, more likely than not in my bullet journal. Join me, and sometimes my friends, in my very strange library as I INFJ everything from unused angles. And please listen to There Might Be Cupcakes podcast, available at theremightbecupcakes.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all your other favorite podcatchers. It's gonna get weird in the best way. Let's play.